Aristotle's Politics is one of the foundational works of political philosophy. But it is not only a book about governments, constitutions, laws, or ancient Greek city-states. At its deepest level, Politics asks a question that still matters today: what kind of community allows human beings to live well together? For Aristotle, politics is not separate from ethics. We become who we are inside families, communities, institutions, and systems of law. Aristotle's Politics may come from an ancient world very different from our own, but his central insight remains powerful: the structure of a society shapes the character of the people who live within it. Here are 5 lessons from Aristotle's Politics. Lesson 1: Human beings are political by nature. Aristotle famously argues that the human being is a political animal. By this, he does not mean that everyone naturally enjoys elections, debate, power struggles, or public life. He means that human beings are not designed to flourish in isolation. We are born into relationships, raised within households, shaped by language, and dependent on communities long before we can choose our own path. For Aristotle, speech is central to this idea because human beings do not merely make sounds like animals. We use language to discuss justice, injustice, advantage, harm, purpose, and the good life. This means that politics begins wherever people deliberate about how life should be ordered. A community is not just a survival arrangement, it is a moral environment. It teaches people what to value, what to honor, what to fear, and what to become. Aristotle's deeper point is that the individual and the community cannot be fully separated. This challenges the modern fantasy of being completely self-made. Aristotle would say that even our private lives are shaped by public conditions: education, law, family structure, economic order, culture, and the examples we see around us. Lesson 2: The purpose of politics is not just order, but human flourishing. For Aristotle, a political community does not exist merely to prevent chaos or protect property. Those things matter, but they are not enough. The highest purpose of the city, or polis, is to make a good life possible. This is one of Aristotle's most important ideas. Politics is not only about managing conflict, it is about shaping the conditions for human flourishing. A society can be stable and still fail if it does not cultivate virtue, responsibility, education, justice, and meaningful participation. Aristotle believes that laws and institutions influence character. They can train citizens toward selfishness, passivity, courage, moderation, wisdom, or civic responsibility. This makes politics a moral project, not just a technical one. The question is not only, how do we maintain order, but what kind of people does this order produce? Look at any institution you belong to: a workplace, school, family, creative group, or community. Ask, what behaviors does this system reward? What kind of character does it quietly encourage? A system's values are often revealed not by what it says, but by what it consistently produces. Lesson 3: Every form of government can decay when it serves private interest over the common good. Aristotle studies different forms of government, including monarchy, aristocracy, and constitutional government, along with their corrupt versions: tyranny, oligarchy, and extreme democracy. His classifications may feel ancient, but the principle behind them is still useful. For Aristotle, the difference between a healthy and corrupt political system is whether power is used for the common good or for the advantage of a narrow group. A king can become a tyrant when rule serves personal desire. An aristocracy can become an oligarchy when the wealthy govern mainly for themselves. A democracy can become unstable when the majority uses power without regard for justice, law, or the whole community. Aristotle is not simply asking who rules, he is asking for whose sake do they rule. That question remains one of the clearest ways to judge power. Power becomes dangerous when it forgets its purpose. Whether in government, organizations, families, or careers, leadership decays when authority becomes self-protection instead of service. Aristotle teaches us to examine not only the structure of power, but the direction of its loyalty. Lesson 4: The middle class helps preserve political stability. One of Aristotle's most practical insights is his defense of a strong middle class. He argues that societies become unstable when wealth and poverty are too far apart. When the rich become too powerful, they may rule arrogantly and treat the community as their possession. When the poor become desperate or resentful, they may lose trust in the system and seek radical change. Extreme inequality creates suspicion, envy, domination, and fear. Aristotle believes that a broad middle class can moderate these tensions because people in the middle are less likely to be consumed by either arrogance or desperation. They are more likely to support law, stability, compromise, and shared citizenship. This does not mean the middle class is morally perfect, but Aristotle sees it as politically stabilizing because it reduces the extremes that tear communities apart. When thinking about any community, do not only ask who is at the top. Ask how wide the gap is between people's conditions. Where there is too much distance between groups, it becomes harder to build trust, shared purpose, or a stable common life. Lesson 5. Education is the soul of a political community. For Aristotle, education is not merely private preparation for personal success. It is one of the central responsibilities of political life. A society depends on the character and judgment of its citizens, and those qualities do not appear automatically. They are formed through habit, practice, example, and instruction. This connects politics back to the Nicomachean ethics: virtue must be cultivated. If a community wants free, responsible, thoughtful citizens, it cannot treat education as an afterthought. Aristotle believes education should be aligned with the purpose of the political community, because young people must learn not only useful skills, but also how to judge, participate, and live well with others. This is why education is never neutral in the deepest sense. It always carries an image of what a human being is for. Every society educates, even when it does not realize it. Media educates. Workplaces educate. Families educate. Algorithms educate. Public examples educate. Aristotle would ask us to pay attention to what kind of citizens, neighbors, and human beings our culture is training us to become. Aristotle's politics still matters because it reminds us that human life is never only individual. We are shaped by the communities we live in, the laws we follow, the leaders we trust, the inequalities we tolerate, and the education we provide. His questions remain urgent. What is power for? What kind of character does a society produce? How do institutions shape human behavior? Can a community be stable without justice? And what kind of education prepares people not only to succeed, but to live well? For Aristotle, the purpose of politics is not merely to control people, but to create the conditions where people can become better, wiser, and more fully human. The final insight is simple. Politics matters because the way we organize life together shapes who we become.
Hello. I am known as the narrator. Thank you for being here. I hope you take these lessons to heart and that you find them useful. Please join us for more wisdom from classic books and other interesting lessons.